Welcome to the AG45 Soul Aligned Strategy Podcast, where business meets purpose, growth feels good, and results meet enjoyment. Hosted by Katherine Breuss, CEO and founder of AG45, this show is built on 30 years of hands-on experience across 4 countries, 3 businesses, and 1 incredible life raising 4 children. Katherine brings a rare whole-person perspective to business, strategy, and leadership. This podcast is for business owners ready to stop spinning, start aligning, and build a business that delivers real value while creating a life that actually feels like yours. At the end of the day, you are the engine behind it all. And when you're clear and aligned, everything moves with purpose. It starts with you. Let's dive in.
Well, I want to welcome Cheryl Litvin to the AG45 Soul Line Strategy Podcast. Cheryl, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and share your experience being soul aligned as well as, as a business owner. But before we get into our, I'm sure, very interesting conversation that's coming ahead, I'd love it if you could introduce yourself to everyone listening and maybe share more about like who you are and then also your business.
Thank you for having me as well. My name is Cheryl Litvin. I am the 4th generation owner of First Associated Insurance Agencies, the independent insurance agency. Started in Brooksville, Wisconsin. We've been here for a very long time. And as a child, if my parents would have asked if I would take over the business, I would have said, hell no. And as life unfolded, I married my high school sweetheart. We moved to California, and I started working as a safety OSHA trainer. And my mom said to me one day, "You know you're doing insurance, right?" And I was like, "No." Sure enough, she's right. And family is hugely important to me. So not letting our legacy go was very important for me. And here we are. So literally, when you asked me to do this, I was like, I know I was born to do this. And I know that how you have green lights and red lights. I know that this is a green light for me and to continue the work that the great grandfather, and parents have done before me.
Wow, that's really cool. You don't meet a lot of 4th generation business.
You don't.
Um,
You don't.
This
First,
is
the 3rd generation is the one that screws it up, though.
yeah. Well, what about Cheryl? Can you share with us, like, for you as a person, like, so you are from Brookfield, is that correct?
I was born and raised in Pewaukee. Our office has always been in Brookfield.
Okay. So what is something that you love doing, you enjoy doing outside of course, your business?
Anytime that I can be outside, I am a happy camper. So hiking, gardening, that I wouldn't say gardening like planting flowers. I'm saying like tearing things apart and putting it back together, organized. Love doing that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Since I moved back to Wisconsin 2.5 years ago, I've been discovering actually a lot of the different kind of hiking trails and parks, and never realized that we're here. There's some really, really beautiful areas to the state. And I love all the little village feels and all the different places within Wisconsin that you don't get throughout all of the U.S. So, Wisconsin is quite close to my heart, actually. But Cheryl, to that. So, in terms of soul aligned, and this is the theme of the podcast, and how AG45, how I see soul alignment is, really when somebody is clear about who they are integrating that in everything they do, including their business. They're aligning who they are and what they want into the strategy of their business. Maybe not directly, like they're sharing it with, everyone on their team. But there is that alignment piece. And when we do that, we don't do it 100% of the time, but when we do that, the impact is huge. So I would love it if you would share how you see soul alignment and what how that has impacted you, whether positively or not, in your business and even in your life.
I kind of touched on it a second ago, but I'm a firm believer in red light, green light. If you've ever read the book by Matthew McConaughey, like the Matthew McConaughey of Green Lights, I read that. Actually, I listened to it and I was like, he's right. When it's a green light, you know that it's easy. You don't have to struggle so much. You know you're on the right path, and the red lights are there to teach you a lesson. So I've had a ton of red lights. Actually, literally right before I popped into this podcast, I got a cancellation notice for one of my new customers. And when I first met him, I knew it wasn't aligned like with me, but I am a firm believer in helping people with insurance because it's super complicated and, walking through it. But I knew he wasn't a right fit for me. And a month later, it's proof he wasn't a right fit for me. So I think that the lesson I'm still learning is I need to trust my gut more. I don't have to help everyone. I need to trust um, my own inner values, that my customers have the same values that I do, which means that we can create a bigger impact together.
Yeah, I really do love that. And that's there's you hit it on the head. I'm not sure if you said, flow, but with that green light, it's easier.
Yeah.
There's, it's not to say that life is easy and it's like, if you're aligned, it's like, oh, life is going to just be cruisy all the time. But it's like, even with the ups and downs and the challenges or whatever it's thrown at you, when there's alignment, it just doesn't feel so hard. It's
Right.
it's, and that the example of even clients, because as business owners, obviously, revenue is important. We got to keep the lights on. We got to take care of employees, etc. But, and it can be hard to listen to our gut when we're feeling like, is this the right fit? Is this the right client? But in the long run, even if, let's say, that client had continued the call, who knows? Maybe they would have been hard work or would have taken a lot, you know what I mean? Like it could have been a lot of resistance, that there's an opportunity cost there if you hadn't and said no, which would allow then for the right people to show up.
Yeah. That's definitely something I struggle with. I am definitely a people pleaser. I am definitely helping first and foremost. But it is something that I need to learn still, that it's okay to say no to people who are outside of my ideal, my value system really is what it is. It's values.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. I'm still learning.
Good luck. It's been, I could say all my life and I'm still, still doing it.
Well, so can you also share insurance? What kind of insurance that your business sells or services?
We mostly do commercial lines, business insurance. We do personal lines, a little bit of key person like life insurance, all of that. So we're really a full service. We don't just, most of the time people will say, I need a general liability policy. Really, our job is to walk them through their entire business life cycle and say, have you thought about this? Have you, just we're looking at the whole thing, not just one little segment. And most of the insurance industry is a churn and burn. If you ask me for a general liability policy, that's exactly what I'm going to give you and nothing more. But really, the only one that's hurting is the business owner.
Yeah.
We're just a consulting advisory type.
It's great. I mean, I love it. I mean, one of the things that we do when we first start working with a business, we look at the risks. We look at all the kind of the things that are those red flags that could get them into trouble. And one of them that comes out time and time again, it's the insurance piece, because it really is important to make sure that you are covering those risks that can absolutely blow up what it's taken years to create.
Right. So one of my red lights, like I said, this has been in my family my entire life. So I really don't know anything different. And I'm a military spouse. My husband served 23 years in the Army. And one of the places that we lived, we both purchased a house and always showed my dad my insurance policy. And he would say, you need this, 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 and this. But nothing is ever going to happen to you, right? Like, never. Until you get hit by a tornado and you have the cheapest insurance possible. And you spend a year living in your dream home with boarded up windows and no carpet. So that red light was the hardest time in my life. And that has prepared me for the way I talk to customers today. Like, no one expects to be hit by a freaking tornado, but it happens. And
Were you hit by a tornado? Wait, in Wisconsin?
In Kansas.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was a bit safe from tornadoes living in Wisconsin.
We just had one yesterday.
Well, on the news, I was like one thing when it comes to tornadoes is one thing living overseas. I was like, I don't have to worry about tornadoes. I have to worry about everything else killing me because I was in Australia. So it was like anything in the water, anything on land, but I didn't have to worry about tornadoes. Wow. Okay. So you were hit by a tornado. I'm assuming everybody was okay.
Everyone was okay. My husband was deployed. I had 2 young boys. They were in bed sleeping. If you have any time, my kids were sleeping. I wasn't going to move them. But, I probably need to move them. And listening to the news, they're talking about streets that are getting closer and closer to me. I'm like, shit, they're happen.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it did.
So where did you go? Because do you have basements in Kansas?
Yeah, we had a basement in Kansas. And it was a walkout ranch, and right in front of the stairs was our patio, the walkout patio door. And all of our windows, everyone says it sounds like a freight train. Well, for me, I could hear like wood breaking. The pressure was so intense, and you could just feel like the house like caving in on you kind of thing. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. And it was like quiet. And you're looking around like, what just happened? It was probably seconds. I have no idea. But making that decision to bring the boys downstairs, to, bring them underneath the stairs, I still get emotional.
Yeah.
I was laying on top of them. They were 4 and 1. And my oldest was like, "You're scaring me." I'm like, "Yep, I'm scared." So,
You got it. I like feel it like, oh my God, like that would just be so scary. And being there on your own with your 2 little boys.
Yeah. And the second scary part was like, I knew we were hit by a tornado. No question at all. But the second scary part was, and I knew it was bad, that when I got up to look up the stairs, was I going to see nothing? Or was I going to see our house? And so that was the second scariest part of our ordeal. And then it got really frustrating, annoying for the next year.
That's when the whole pain of rebuilding and dealing with insurance. So at the time, you did not have great insurance.
That is correct. Our agency was not licensed in Kansas. Oddly enough, one of our big carriers was like maybe a week prior to the tornado. There was a big hailstorm, like softball size hail. So our big carrier was out there, being adjusters to claims. And my dad said, "Hey, my daughter's there. We can't get to her because the Mississippi was flooding. Of course, the whole town was messed up. They came to my house and helped clean up. And they were not even my insurance company. They are still to this day my insurance company now, but they weren't then. And I had the 1-800 every day I had to call, every day I had to fight. Our house wasn't level, which made it harder because if it was, they would just say, here's the 300 or 400,000, but they didn't. And we had to fight for everything. I worked for a contractor, thankfully, and he said, Cheryl, I will board up your house. I will not touch it because you're changing the proof. So we lived there for a long time with no windows and no carpet.
And that's really hard too, on top of it, with small kids. I mean, with any kids, it's hard.
And 2 rambunctious boys.
Yeah, even small, I've got 3 boys and a girl. So I'm picturing, when they were even young and then having to live in a boarded up house. And then was your husband away most of the time? Yeah. That's
he was gone for 9 months out of it because he had pretty much just left. And so, yeah.
So you were
like, do I need to come home? And I'm like, you gonna do? Live in a boarded up house too. Yep.
Well, I can see why, even more so now, how aligned you are to what you're doing. Because when we have a personal experience in the field and we see the impact, it even aligns us and drives us even more, because you've experienced what it's like to be on the other end and not have the support that you thought you'd get.
Right. And even just having our clients, if that were to happen to me or here to a client here, they would just call me and they would have to explain it once. And that's it. And that is priceless.
Oh my gosh, it is. It is. And, in terms of too, because, there are so many insurance agents out there. There's so many different types of insurance, and just trying to, as like a consumer on the other end, trying to understand what it all means. And then that ability to trust the agent, because then they're the experts. And so then you're kind of like, hey, I want to trust you because, I don't really even know.
Right.
So it's hard. And it's the same thing. I find this also with wealth advisors as well. There's so many wealth advisors out there, and a lot of them do, they'll sell insurance too. But I really love, I hate that happened to you and your family, but I love that connection. Like, I love that there's that connection from an unpleasant experience, and hearing now what you're doing for people, so that it doesn't happen to them. That's really, I don't know. I think that's kind of like a hats off.
Right. So at the time I thought it was a red light, and now 100% it was a green light to the next path of what I was supposed to be doing.
So when did you move back to Wisconsin?
2018.
Okay. And is that when did you take over the business?
The official takeover date was just January of 2025.
Oh, congratulations. All right. But you've been working in the business for quite a while though.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I know you grew up with it. You had it all around you.
I think I became licensed in 2014 or 15.
So I would, Cheryl, I'd love for you to, if you have an experience that comes to mind, thinking of a time where you didn't necessarily feel so aligned, and the impact of that in whatever way that showed up.
Yeah, that's easy. When I moved back in 2018, like I said, this agency has been around since 1955, so older than me. And growing up, I saw my grandfather and my mother and my father sending out letters, literally looking through the telephone book, doing all those things to drum up business. Well, I wasn't given anything when I came here. And that first year, literally nothing. I didn't have a salary, nothing. That we were only living at my husband's retirement pension. And that first year, I did what my dad and my mom did and sent out letters, did all of that. Let me tell you, it was rough. And it took me about a year to go, what am I doing? This can't be how this is. I have all this experience. I'm an OSHA trainer. I've been through a tornado. Like, I know insurance. This just can't be. And I met somebody who said, hey, come to this women's group. And I started networking. I didn't even know what it was because I didn't do it before. And my parents certainly never did it. And that's when the green light started happening. And I learned that I had to do things differently. Their experience before was great and still is great, but that's not how it is fresh, new today. So I started going to networking events. I started speaking. I started just giving value back instead of, hi, my name is Cheryl from First Associated, blah, blah, blah. I sell insurance. Well, I'm talking about things that, hey, getting hit by a tornado freaking suck. But you know that the second or water is your first claim. Do you have a finished basement? So I just started talking differently. My business started growing. So that I had to learn that super quick, and I doubted myself for a year, thinking this not gonna. And I wanted to quit about 25 million times, like every entrepreneur. But I also knew that I couldn't quit because the ultimate goal was continuing my family's legacy and educating people about what insurance should be. So those two goals just kept telling me to put one foot in front of the other. And here we are.
I love that. So there was, what you were doing to begin with was misaligned, even though it seemed like the right thing to do or the way to do it. And then you fell into, let me ask you, was it kind of like you fell into it? Or was there something inside that was like, I really want to network because of this? Or,
well, I'm an introvert. So I would say, nope, didn't want to do that either. But I think, being a military spouse, we did lunches every month or whatever as a group and just tried to keep connected as a community. And that was actually one of the things I missed when my husband was retired was I lost my community. So I think that community aspect of it is what said, okay, maybe I'll try this. And then I just started finding the right people that aligned again with my values, and it just took off from there.
it's interesting because I was going to guess if there was something like that in terms of a community piece that was important to you. But and this is really great for our listeners to hear, is that I love that you said that you were an introvert. So it wasn't like networking was like something that you're like, let's do networking.
I'm
like, oh,
let's go.
But what probably really drove you, from what I hear you saying, was that higher why. And that higher why was really educating people on insurance and the importance of insurance and your story, like that value of like sharing what could happen to them in terms of, and really how to protect themselves. So it's this helping, serving people and adding value to their lives. That is what I hear. So that even like when we have that and we align to something bigger than us, even things that might not come natural to us or that we might not necessarily like. So, as an introvert, networking is probably not the first thing you're drawn to. It's not so bad because that bigger why you're connected with, and that drives everything.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially, introverts do not like the spotlight at all. But when you shift it and talk about things that are happening in the news or things that personally get with the tornado, it just shifts the dynamic. So it doesn't feel like you're selling versus educating. And you don't have to buy insurance through me, but you do have to understand what you're getting into.
Well, and I think that's really important too, because, I hear most people, even extroverts, a lot of people don't like to sell. There's a lot of people, there's very few people I sit or I listen to and they're like, yeah, I love selling. It's
All
like,
this.
this is great. And it's this shift in a mindset that, yeah, I mean, obviously we're all selling to some level, to some degree, you know, but when you're adding value, it's not like it's the only time someone should feel bad about selling is if they are lying, either misrepresenting themselves, they have a product that's a sham, and they're trying to, the rest of the time, it's like if you're adding value and you know that you're adding value, it's something to be proud of. And it's not that you're forcing. I love that you even said like, they don't have to buy insurance from me, but it's just understanding, it's understanding what it is and probably understanding the risks and just being educated so they can make that decision. It's value.
One of the things I always tell my business owners most of the time, because, yeah, I'm like, you're going to ask me the same questions 20 million times. I will answer them 20 million times. And 5 minutes later, you'll probably forget what this means, but you can ask me again.
Yeah. I am definitely probably one of those.
And you're doing it. No one starts a business because they want to do all the administrative stuff and, the legal stuff, and the insurance. Nobody does, except for, people in those fields. But, and there are things that I'm not great at. Like we literally have our website guy here and he's been yelling at me about our website for years that it's just, not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But that's his expertise and can't be good at that. All the things, right?
No, and that's great. It's knowing what is time worth spending on and
Right.
what to get rid of or what to delegate or what to automate. Because time is just as important. Cheryl, last question. What would be advice that you would give to fellow business owners? I'm sure there's a lot, but if there was one that comes to mind, of a recommendation or advice that you would like to share so that other business owners could be more successful in whatever that means to them, what would it be?
I think you have to get really gritty with your weakness. So I've always had some kind of coaching, consulting person, and I always try to figure out what my weakness is. And then I go to that expert to help me get stronger or to get me to the next spot of delegating. But knowing what you're terrible at is a very good benefit of growing because the minute you can give it away, delegate it, get better, whatever it is, it's when you get step into the next stepping stone.
Mhm. I love it. I also love that you get outside support like coaches and consultants and stuff, because obviously I believe massively in it because that is it's my business. Um, but it really does, it exponentially, having those outside advisors or advocates for businesses are, I just can't say enough in terms of how important it is.
I think that, if I look at your insurance policy, doesn't matter what it is, I can find your fault in probably, or your gap in 2 seconds or less. You can also do the same thing in my business on those things that I can't see and then open up, shed the light. And so you have to find the right person for what you don't know.
Yes, yes. And find the right person for it you don't know to like shine a light on those gaps, and how to maybe move forward through it.
Yep.
Cheryl, thank you so much for your time. It has been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation and wish you all the very best.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the AG45 Soul Aligned Strategy podcast. If you're ready to align your soul with your business, take back your time, and grow with intention, we'd love to connect. Visit accelerategrowth45.com to schedule a call, apply to be a guest, or take the next step toward building a soul-aligned business. At AG45, we believe when business meets value, wealth meets legacy, and time meets freedom, the journey becomes truly enjoyable. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy.